Good morning, Kathryn Andries. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you today.
Good. I'm glad you're here. I'm excited to have you come in and talk to us about your work, and we're really excited that you're joining us for the Soulful Treasures giveaway. So let's get started.
Great.
um, I think my first question to you is going to be because I don't know anything about your work yet. Can you give me a bit of an overview of what it is you do?
Sure. So, the core of my work is about helping people find their life purpose. So, I call myself a life purpose strategist and an
Mhm,
intuitive teacher because I work one on one with individuals as well as in group formats.
mhm.
And I have a unique method. It's a six method pathway to help people find their life purpose. And so I take them through the paths of astrology, palmistry, numerology, uh, iris analysis, past life, and family birth order. So through
Mhm.
each one of those paths, we have a lens to see ourselves from a different perspective
Right.
and understand what are our gifts and talents and what are our challenges. So a lot of people ask me, well, what is a life purpose? And I see there's two components to the life purpose. And the first is, okay, what are our gifts and talents that we were born with? What are some that we can spruce up a little bit, develop, and then share them with the world? That's
Mhm.
often our passions, what we love. Then there's also the other side of where are our weak points, our challenges. And that's also part of our life purpose is to look at those challenges and master them. Look at the areas where we're weak. And I always tell people your weak points can become your greatest gifts. So it's about
Mhm.
that transformation process.
Mhm. True. Wow. That's an excellent overview. I like to use several different ways to go about it. Each one of them is valid on their own. The different methods you discussed, every one of those is so valid on their own. Um, it's amazing to me, just iridology. I had an iridology reading once, and that woman told me more about me than I think anybody else ever has, just
Oh,
with
well,
one little iridology reading.
I'm glad you said that because so iridology is the study of the physical constitution of the body through the eyes. So the
Hmm.
study that I do is called RAYID, RAYID. It was developed by Denny Johnson in the 1970s. And that has in common with iridology that we use the eyes to understand, but
Hmm.
it's the psychological, psycho-spiritual aspects of the person as opposed to the physical. So it's a completely different study. The only thing
Wow.
in common is that we do use the eyes to understand what's going on, but
Hmm.
very, very different studies.
Well, I see. Okay. Well, it's kind of the other side of that, like the
Yes.
other side of the coin. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, may I ask what inspired you in this direction? When did you start, and kind of why? Did you suddenly become exposed to some of this, or was there a particular influence on you? Did things just kind of fall into place naturally? Everybody's story is different, and I'm wondering what your story, your origin story is for this work.
Sure. Well, I grew up without any formal religion. And so I was in my teens, 13, 14, when I started wondering, well, okay, if religion doesn't have the answers, what does?
Mhm.
And so that kind of got me on the metaphysical path. I started reading books by Ruth Montgomery, a little bit of astrology books, and that just opened the doorway and it never shut. It was really in my 20s after I graduated college, and I thought, okay, my life purpose is all about my career. But I was lost. I wasn't sure exactly where to go. And I knew traditional routes weren't going to give me the answers. So I had my first astrology reading in my 20s. And I was
Mhm.
completely astounded by the information that came through. And so my first thought was, I want to learn how to do that. And so I started with astrology, studied that for several years, began working one on one with people. And then over a period of about 10 years, I explored the other five paths, the past life work, the numerology. And at the end of the 10 years, I was like, wow, I really feel like I know myself at the core. And I
Mm,
said, I want to bring this to other people. And so that's my story, in terms of always looking to the alternative paths. And when you see that something works, you
mhm,
usually want to just share it with others. And that was kind of my experience. I thought I have to help other people with these tools. And
mhm.
so that's how it began. And then I taught my first class at an adult education class through a high school and had all these worksheets and things. And then I said, okay, I need to put all this into a book, a path that people can take that won't take them 10 years. It took me 10 years to go through all these paths and study them. And so my courses and my books help people go through these methods a little bit quicker so they can figure out their purpose and begin living it.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, that's an incredible story. So you still do this full-fledged today, and you probably, most people as they move along, they add this or that or tweak this or that. Is your practice fairly similar to what it's always been, or?
Oh, it's definitely grown and evolved over the years.
Mhm,
I'm also a breath worker, so a lot of times there's so much mental information that we have to
mhm,
process with all these methods that I
mhm,
really feel to integrate them, people need something to get into their right brain, get into the
mhm.
deeper part. And so often in my workshops, I incorporate breath work, and dream work as well. Dreams reveal a lot about where we are in our life purpose and how we're going. So I've incorporated that over the years. I've
Mhm.
really deepened in my ability to read the past lives with people. I was trained years ago, and so I feel like even go deeper with that to help people. And then, of course, the course has changed over the years. Like I said, I started out with all these worksheets all over the place, and now I have some very nice books that succinctly relate the message. And
Wonderful.
trying to now really incorporate it into my life coach practice, where I
Ah,
individually take people and coach them to understand their life purpose using all these different paths.
mhm. So you have expanded into coaching. It's interesting. And
Yes.
that's wonderful. It sounds like a natural progression because even in your sessions, if you still hold sessions, you must be essentially coaching them with the information, right?
Exactly. And not everybody wants to go through the six paths. So that's nice when we do coaching work together, is that people can kind of tailor the program to how they want. They might say, I just
Mhm,
want to do three of the paths. And so we go real deep with just the three.
mhm,
So it's basically what people want. Another evolution of the six paths that I wanted to share is I've always been fascinated about the study of relationships and how people are drawn to certain people, why certain relationships can last 40 years and others 10. And so I
mhm.
took the six paths and I related them specifically to relationships. So my second book is called Soul Choices: Six Paths to Fulfilling Relationships. So
Wow.
I look at each tool, for example, the astrology, and I talk in depth about how the different zodiac signs relate to each other. Because when two people get together, the interesting thing is a third person is formed, which is the relationship. So we have person A, B, and then the relationship. And so
Mhm,
people themselves are who they are, but we change a little bit when we're around certain people. And I was always fascinated by that. So I began to study the interplay of the influences, whether it's one zodiac sign with another, or one type of iris that is drawn to another, and why. And so in that second book, I really teach people how to understand the relationship dynamics and why they're drawn to somebody, why they're repelled by another person, because it's all about us, really. And that's a big part of my work now is relationship work. I teach courses on it and guide a lot of people
wow.
through relationship struggles using those tools.
Mhm. Okay. So your work really has done some morphing and building. And it
Yes.
sounds very important too. It sounds like really important work. Now, your second book was The Six Paths. I didn't hear you say the name of your first book.
Oh, the first book is called Soul Choices: Six Paths to Find Your Life Purpose.
Oh, okay. So they're both going to be based on the six paths.
Yes. Hmm.
Right, wonderful. And are those available on Amazon or where can people find them?
Yeah, Amazon's probably the best bet,
Okay.
or my
Wow.
website.
Okay. Well, you do a whole myriad of things now. And whether it's one of those things or something else, what really lights you up the most right now? What is the thing that you would just have to say is your passion?
I'm because I myself over the past few years have gone through some major transformations, and
Mhm.
so I'm helping people through transformations. And I think the key that really turns me on right now is realizing how when we get stuck in a belief pattern,
Mhm.
it's the attachment to those beliefs that keep us trapped, that keep us with our blinders on. And
Mhm.
so I do a lot with uncovering these belief systems. And when we can free ourselves from a belief system, the pain is gone. We're released from this baggage. And so of course I look at beliefs in relationship to these six paths, because certain influences will have a tendency to gravitate towards certain belief systems. And so it's really about how can we free ourselves from these really entrapping beliefs, because a belief is not necessarily a truth. It's just something that has accumulated in our thought pattern and has become a part of us. It kind of runs our life. And we really need to uncover these and see, does this
We give
belief,
way too much power to our beliefs.
yeah, and decide if this belief doesn't serve me, it's time to let it go and replace it with something more expansive.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Wow. Well, now when folks want to find you and your work, what is the name of your website?
Masteryourlifepurpose.com.
Okay. Very nice. That should be easy to remember. Um, and let's see, what kind of wisdom, if you had just a little something, if you could just give one message to our listeners today, um, that I'm calling it wisdom because we always say words of wisdom. What would you leave with them as a message to encourage them on their way?
That everybody has a very significant, important life mission, and it
Mhm.
is reachable. The answers are in the codes of your birth date, your name, the patterns in your eyes, the patterns in your hands. All the answers are there for you to uncover. And you really, the most important thing you're here for is to complete that life mission.
Exactly. And it's a very exciting journey uncovering these things,
It is.
learning all of that. That it's as we are have been recently reminded, the journey itself is the joy. Uh, we're also anxious to get to the completion of the journey, and the importance really is appreciating every step of the journey. I want to do a different kind of a question for a minute now and get off the serious side a bit, just to let our listeners and audiences get to know you just a little bit better. So I always like to ask people, what makes you laugh, play, or feel most alive?
Oh, definitely being in nature and with animals. I can just observe nature and just be amazed.
Mhm.
I finally have some land that I live on, a couple acres and a garden and lots of animals around. So, I mean, just that lights up my days. The animals I've discovered are authentic. And
Mhm.
the most powerful vibration in the world is authenticity. And I
Mhm.
think that's why we gravitate to nature and animals, because they don't pretend to be something they aren't. They just are
Mhm.
who they are. And so there's just something so grounding and real about being in nature with the animals that just brings me
Mhm.
back to center and reminds me who I am and the importance of being my authentic self, because it takes too much energy to try to be something you're not. To
Mm.
all the animal lovers out there, I'm sure you experience what I do, just this sense of peace and calm just from holding a cat and petting it
Mhm.
or looking at
Exactly.
animals.
Right. They are there in their authenticity and they are there in their vulnerability too.
Oh, yeah.
They tend not to, you know, not to hold back there. But okay, well that's a nice answer. And let me ask you, did you donate a free gift to the attendees for the Soulful Treasures giveaway?
I did. So it is a
You want to
wonderful
tell us about it?
booklet, The Four Methods to Discover Your Life Purpose. And so
Okay.
I give people a sampling of how they can find their life purpose with these
Mhm,
exercises in this booklet.
mhm,
We only look at four of the paths. I teach them a little about iris analysis, a little about palmistry, astrology, and numerology. And there's actually some concrete steps people can take in each one of those four paths to begin to uncover some of their gifts and talents, some of their challenges. So it's a
mhm.
downloadable PDF booklet.
Wonderful. All right. I'm sure that we'll have a lot of people going for that one. That's some great information, and I would imagine that everyone who's listening to you right now is pretty interested in this.
Well,
So,
really, everybody's interested in themselves, right? We're all super curious
mhm,
about who we are. It's an amazing discovery of who we are and how we got to this place in our lives. So
right.
I think you're right. People want to know more about themselves.
Yes, indeed. And it's just fascinating to learn all of that, the things you didn't know about yourself before. So, yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Kathryn, for taking the time today to join us and talk about your work. It's been really inspiring and interesting. And we look forward to seeing you at the Soulful Treasures giveaway. And I want to wish you the very best in continuing your wonderful work.
Thank you, Ganel. Look forward to the event.
All right. Thank you.